Hi, I'm Willie Nel and you're watching Cape Town versus Johannesburg at Tarleton International Raceway. I'm going to take you back in time now, back in a bit of the history of this car. It started way back in 1988 when my cousin phoned me and said a friend of his in Worcester has got a Can-Am for sale. And this would have been my fifth one. I had four before then. And we actually bought the car via the telephone. I phoned Julian, that's the guy who owned it before me, and he assured me that this was a genuine Can-Am. I gave him a few pointers. He said me all these things abide by what I asked him for. And this is what started the whole ball game rolling. We drove down with my Ford Sierra at the time, XR6, on the Friday. We picked up the car on the Saturday, towed it back with the A-frame to Joburg on the Sunday. We arrived there late the afternoon after an incident-free trip up to Joburg. And it all started there. A week later the car was taken apart. The front suspension was rebuilt. The wheels was polished. It got a new heart or a motor in. And we kept the Munchie gearbox which the cars came out originally with. It took me about 3 weeks because we bought the car in September 1988, and in December we came on holiday all the way from Joburg to Cape Town. It was extremely hot, the car boiled, and we went back after 3 weeks of holiday and we changed the motor again. We put different heads on, we put a different radiator in, which we purchased from a friend of mine, which was an original Can-Am radiator, which is still the same radiator in the car today. And that is how the whole car scenario started, as a car that was bought in Worcester. It was a lovely car. We changed the front end of the car later to a chef hatch because the front end wasn't purposely built for the car, and we changed it again after a while. And later on in this video you will see what the car now looks like. This was sprayed and panel beat in 1990, so the car is actually 15 years with the same paint, with the same car, different wheels on. Emotions now. Before it had Tiger wheel, I can't remember the name, but it was Tiger wheel wheels. Difficult to get them balanced at the time because the aluminium jobs, that was not as good as they are these days. But that is basically what the history of the car involves. After the second rebuild, we decided that we will go for an automatic box because at the time to purchase a clutch pressure plate and a release bearing was 1,200 Rand, believe it or not. That was too expensive at those days to purchase that, and we decided, well, I've got the automatic box, let's go for that. And that's how the Munchie box was taken out, the clutch was taken out, and we went for automatic. The diff didn't last, the old Borg-Warner diff, 2:9 ratio, and we put a Ford 9-inch diff in, which at the time was a standard Ford 9-inch. Now it's not a Ford 9-inch anymore. It's aftermarket side shaft, it's aftermarket spool, it's aftermarket gear. So all these things have been changed over the years. The gearbox is not standard anymore. That was sent up to Johannesburg to beef it up to withstand the more power, the nitros that's on the car, the motor, which is a 383 or a 377, depends on where we're racing. If it's up country in Johannesburg, it's a 383. If we're racing down here in Cape Town, it's a 377. The one is for torque, the other one is for revs. Cape Town we need more revs, Johannesburg we need more torque to get the car going. So that is what the car entails of up to now. The double headlights, yes, there was a certain amount of Can-Ams that did come out with double headlights. It wasn't a special that was made for the car. It comes off some Forenzas came out with dual headlights, and we built it into the car. And I think it was a worthwhile change on the car because even driving it at night time now, at least you got better lighting to drive on dark roads and things like that. The wing on the back, that is still originally made in America by American Motorsports, and that's one of the distinctions on these cars, that you can see that if it's a genuine Can-Am. Other things that you can look for, it must have white sun visors, the hood lining must be black, and must be high back seats. At the moment the car's got one racing seat to accommodate the 4-point harness, and there's many small things. Then after that, it started off with the various gauges and safety things, because I had a backfire once and the car didn't want to stop because some of the the debris got stuck in the solenoids and the car kept on accelerating. The brakes couldn't stop it. It was hell. It was hair-raising taking a corner, especially guys racing at Cape Town at Killarney racetrack. They know what that 90-turn corner can be at the bottom of the strip. If you've got to take that corner with slicks on at 90 kilometers an hour, that was hair-raising. But we made it. We came back, and I built in a lot of safety features in the car, not just for me, but also for my fellow competitors, because the racing just doesn't go about myself. It does also go about the competitor you're racing up against. You also must take him and his safety and his family's safety in consideration. It's not to take out the other guy, but to win him, and that is what it is all about. Right, I'm going to take you back in a bit of the history of the motor as such. For our race here in Johannesburg, it's the 383, as I said, for upcountry. It's a combination motor. It's a stroker motor, a 350 block with a 400 crank, which is aftermarket. Carrillo rods, TRW pistons, crane cam, full roller lifters, rev kit, and roller rockers, dart heads, Sportsman 2, which is ported. Way back when I used to stay in Johannesburg, it was done here locally. We've got covers, a Holly 850 double pumper with a 3-stage nitro, but up to now I haven't been able to use the 3rd stage due to the car's too much of a handful to actually utilize the 3rd stage. So hopefully we will do a 1st and a 2nd stage here at Talton. Next weekend we will be at the West Bank Raceway. First time ever for me there. The motor, to go back to that, behind the motor is a 350 turbo box, being rebuilt by a specialized company in Pretoria. The box was flown up to Pretoria, flown back after weeks of modification, and that was done in 1988. I beg your pardon, 1998. And since then, which is now 2005, that is 7 years, that box hasn't been opened, hasn't been touched, apart from draining the oil on a regular basis. The diff, that is, as I say, a Ford 9-inch with a Detroit locker, aftermarket side shafts from Strange, gears from Mark Williams, and BMW brakes in the back, BMW brakes in the front, 4-pot calipers. And that does the stopping for me, which is a lot better than what the old used to be Forenza Can-Am brakes used to be, because you needed a big anchor to stop the car, especially here at Killarney racetrack, which is a short distance. Up here at Talton, not a problem because plenty of space, 800 meters to stop the car in. The ignition system on the engine, that is an MSD ignition, fully electronic ignition system. The water pump is still standard water pump. It only runs 2 electric fans connected to a thermostat switch on the radiator, which give me ample cooling. I don't need anything more than that. The branches was made by T&T exhaust systems, and just recently, in fact 2 days ago, I had a new exhaust system, 76mm from the branches, made up for special racing here in Gauteng, because here you got to race with full street legal exhaust systems on. They actually give me a hard time because I didn't have a wiper on. So I had to borrow a wiper from a friend of mine also with a Can-Am to utilize that to make the car fully street legal. Otherwise everything else is street legal. We do drive the car on the street. It's priority, first time street car, then a drag car. It's not a purpose-built drag car. This car was licensed in 1973. It's a full-on Chevrolet car, one of the 100 original cars. It's not a rebuild, it's not a build-up, it is an original Can-Am. The gauges in the car, that was done afterwards. I got an autometer gauge, a ref counter in with a memory in of 40 seconds. There's 4 memories in this ref counter of 40 seconds each. There's a built-in memory in it. You can download it onto a computer or a PC. It's got a digital timing device which you activate by either the trans brake or the activation of a nitros kit or whatever you got in the car. Then I've got a autometer, a ref limiter, and I got a RPM NOS switch which activates my 2nd stage of NOS, because there's no time to press buttons in 1st or 2nd gear. The 1st stage is activated by a full throttle switch on the carburetor. 2nd one is by the RPM switch. Then there's various different other switches, all safety switches, to activate the first, second, third stage, to activate the fuel pumps, to activate the rev counter's memory. And I've got a voltmeter instead of a amp meter, because that gives me more accurate reading of how much voltage there is in my battery, and I need that especially for the big solenoids. When I start activating these things, you need full power, otherwise they open too slow and that could cause major engine damage. The steering wheel is a personal steering. They used to come out with a personal 14-inch steering. This is a personal 12-inch steering. Then the nitros, it's a NOS kit. All three stages is made by NOS. I've got a safety tap next to my handbrake. Switch the nitros off in case you have a backfire or there's some other disadvantages that you don't want to happen with you, or you might have an accident. That happened before, as I said earlier on, that I had a backfire and the NOS gets stuck open, so I can switch the nitro switch off, but that doesn't stop the flow of the nitros. So by activating the tap, I can switch the nitros off. Next to it is a pressure gauge to verify what the pressures in the bottles are on various days, and when it's a cold day or a hot day, must you warm up the bottle, must you cool the bottles down. This is also very important. In the back of in the boot, I got two bottles. Easier to swap them around. If I do run the third stage, I can just connect the third stage. I got a small fuel tank, because the big fuel tank in the car, the petrol keeps on running away from the pickup pipes. So I put in a small tank where it's force fed, it's gravity feed to the pump. I run on the carburetor side, I run the Wiilie black pump, which can deliver 140 gallons an hour. You can multiply that by 4.5 to see how many liters an hour you can get out of this pump. And then on the NOS side, I run two blue fuel pumps which deliver 114 gallons each, to keep the pressure up on the nitro side. That is what the fuel, and the fuel lines, I beg yours, that is 12 millimeters or half an inch fuel lines. ID, not OD, ID. So the car doesn't run out of fuel, and it is quite thirsty. On a quarter mile, I use between 2 to 2.5 liters, all depends how much wheel spin I pick up. So it's not your everyday car in the street that goes kilometers per liter. Here we go liters per kilometer. So it makes a difference. Try and keep the fuel up there and not starve the motor, run it lean and burn pistons, burn plugs and things like that. I do know that. My pit mech, Daryl, he also knows about this. He's holding the boom at this moment. So we're doing the thing. He's been with me for quite a few years. Since 1991 he's been with me. He actually cut his holiday, or rather his wedding holiday, honeymoon short to come and race with me in 1992. And in 1992 we set a record of 10.2 those days, which was the fastest street car in the country. This record stood for almost 5 years before somebody up country actually demolished it again. I think it was Sabi Kutsia at the time. On the tire side, that's a completely whole different ball game now. The fronts, they don't get changed. The rims that's on here is not standard rims. They used to come out with personal rims, 6 inches wide. This is Emotion work rims, 7 inches by 16. The back ones, that's the ones that normally get changed for racing. The street tires, they can't hold it. The traction, there's nothing with them. I've tried different make, I've tried various different sizes. Nothing is capable of holding all the kilowatts in the car. When you go down the strip, our best time ever was a 9.941 seconds. The speed is at approximately 230. Our best speed ever recorded was 227 up in Joburg. This time around, I don't know how much it's going to be in Johannesburg. We'll see. We hope for a low 10 seconds. If it's not, then it's just one of those things. We'll have to go back and do some more homework on it. Hopefully, you will see. Unfortunately, the tires is not on the car now, but we'll give you a shot of the ET street tires. They are street legal. You can drive with them in the street. They don't like rain. That I can promise you. But on a dry surface, these tires stick like you can't believe it. They are unreal when it comes to traction. And on the racetrack, you definitely need every bit of traction that you can get for your competitor. Otherwise, you're on the losing side. And as I said earlier on to a friend of mine, in drag racing, there's no second place. You either win or you come last. You lose. You don't have a second place. It's a winner takes all game this. It's a hard game, but we all love it. and we strive forward. And that's why the sticker on the back of my car would say drag racing is not a sport, it's an obsession. Like I'm glad that he